Give me 1 minute. I'm gonna set this up if I can figure this out. It's been so long since I put on a live stream or even made a YouTube video actually. Um, all right, so I'm gonna go through the CAPR trade I made. Kind of go over what I saw, why I traded it. Um, yeah, kind of the whole shebang. All right. So, first off, let's kind of go through the entire trade. What happened? Um, all right, let me pull these up. So these are the SEC filings. So the other day, CAPR announced that they had these positive results from a little study that they had. Um, Basically, it kind of said here that the results are clinically relevant. Um, but when I dug a little bit further than this, I found that the study was really tiny, and I got this book called New Drugs, so I was kind of researching it, seeing what all this stuff meant. And I went on to the internet, kind of looked into it a little bit more, trying to figure out, this thing gapped up like 100%. This was this big move, so I kind of wanted to get a better idea as to what was going on, how important this news was. And then I found this article kind of going through Janssen Biotech and this company, Capricorn Therapeutics, deal back in the day that they had, but basically that deal went under, and they're talking about the same drug, the CAP 1002, uh, same one that they mentioned here in the 8K, right? They're talking about the same drug. So basically, Janssen kind of dropped this drug a while back, and they what they probably saw was like it wasn't really that great of a drug, or maybe that not that it wasn't that great of a drug, but maybe it was just way too costly. So I think they ended up cutting the funding and stuff. And then I found this is the same article, but yeah. So basically, I came to the conclusion that these results might not be all that great. The sample size was pretty small. You need a minimum number of patients to, go into the study. As you can see here, that's 17 patients. That's really not that much from what I was reading. And then they basically, yeah, that was kind of it with the news. And if we go to the stock price, this thing went from 3 to it opened up at 6. So this thing gapped up 100% or almost 100%. Uh, and I just kind of I watched it day one. I didn't do anything at all actually. I just watched it, kind of started researching this Hope 2 drug. Uh, you know, get a better idea as to what the company's doing, what the company's about, all that good stuff. I want to pull up the chart though, because day one I was watching this and I noticed a couple of things as I was just watching. First off, you know, this thing gapped up, so you won't see the complete move here. But it started, pre-market, this thing went from 3 to opened up 7s. And immediately, how this usually works is first 10, 15 minutes, everyone's buying all over the place. No one really has any clue what's going on. It's usually like a madhouse as soon as the market opens, as you guys probably know. And then, typical get big on a big gap up, you might get like a little melt early, not really a melt, kind of a fall. This move happened, within 30 minutes, this thing just started going, popped up really strong. Then there was a wall up here, and then it started fading a bit, fading a bit, fading a bit, and then you get this choppy action, right? You got to remember this is a really low float. And this choppy action, what it does is it whipsaws everyone around because this thing breaks under, if we zoom way in, this signals that it's breaking under, you know, the uh the low. So, shorts that got in here, they're feeling good. Longs are probably feeling like crap, but then this thing gets saved, right? This big order gets filled, and then, I have the volume histogram where it shows the actual volume by price, not so much the volume by time. And this, I use the volume you can't see it here, but on my other screen I have it. It's really important to me in the way I trade. I suggest using it if you've never used it before, or at least trying it. But basically, you can see that someone is selling here and someone's buying here. So they're kind of like whipping this around, and it might not look like much, but it's really, you're talking, 50 cents on a $6 stock. That's a decent move that you're picking up if you're playing the spreads. That's 6%. Uh, so someone was, holding this thing up. You could tell. And then you get a little bit more here before this thing now starts to play a little bit wider range. I gotta, right? So, if you're selling here on this $7 line, shorting, shorting, covering here, you're making a little bit of money, and I'm sure there was people doing that. But here's the thing, right? This thing was trading a lot of volume all day, and the float was so tiny that what happens is with this volatility, it sucks people out. You get trapped if you think this is like a break up and it's going to start to squeeze you and you get trapped, right? And then the stock gets pushed down and then you end up selling. What this does is it sucks you into both ends, right? If you're shorting the breakdown because there's a whole dollar and a half to fall, $2 to fall, they're trapping you short and then they're trapping you long, so you get stuck in here. It's like a hurricane, right? Sometimes you can live if you're in the eye of the hurricane. You can kind of just withstand the move either way. But also what happens is if you don't have a great entry, then you end up, probably getting you're probably the guy that sells on the breakdown when it's not really a breakdown, or you cover on the breakout and it's not really a thing. So kind of orchestrated here, I was thinking. I was just watching at this point. I didn't have any position. I was just, researching. And then I would bring up this chart, take a look, and that's kind of what I saw going on early. So immediately after this point, like after, you know, this failed breakdown, I was kind of like, oh, like this is probably going to be a multi-day move. It looks like someone is really propping this thing up. So I'm doing my research, digging through the filings, and then, at this point, you kind of get this same effect here with the whiplashiness, where it's kind of just shakes everyone out, starts a new price over here before, going higher. And then around noon is when I started watching it close. Um, Maybe I'll try to keep this whole day, right? So if I'm a short seller, usually how I play these is I kind of use the fib lines. And personally, how I trade this, I don't like trading day one, so I usually always avoid. But if I were to play this, and I do play day one, like if there's a filing that's showing dilution, or like this company's absolute trash, and there's no price stabilization, then I'll maybe give it a go. But for here, this was a little bit trickier of a trade. So, um, kind of how I play these is, this is like the upper boundary. This is kind of like the chop boundary, and then this lower boundary is like, I'm confident in my short. I'm gonna make a lot of money. This thing has a good chance of fading all day. Well, this was really holding this level pretty well. I actually marked this 658 area because that's where I saw the buyers coming in, propping this a little bit. Um, or this is just like kind of a general area. It was probably 650. No, yeah, like 640. Anyways, um, yeah, so we kind of like got in here, and normally if I was short, I have like a 15-minute rule where I like to wait 15 minutes before laying in short. Um, if I'm short here, I'm holding, and then like on this break of 7-Eleven, I may have gotten stopped out. I may have added here, but what time in the day is this? Oh, 10:30. I would have been adding here short, and hopefully probably covering these washes, even though they're a little bit, yeah, I would probably be covering here. But I would be really looking for this to go. I'd probably be laying in short here hard, but on this part of the chart right here, I would have had to get stopped out. If it comes back and hits this level again, like it wants to fight, and on this was volume out of nowhere. Well, on this second attempt to break over this mark, I would have to stop out. And as bad as it would suck, usually when that happens, it's a good thing that I stop out and just, take the small win compared to fighting this thing higher. Something I learned over the years is, after 10:30, man, I don't add as much because this, once you start rolling into like 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, it becomes no man's land, and you don't know where the stock is going. Early shorts are usually early to leave, and stubborn shorts here clearly get squeezed. So it's tough. I wouldn't have recommended, well, not going to recommend anything, but I wouldn't have wanted to be short here. Definitely don't want to be long either. As I was researching this company, I thought it was, kind of trashy. And then here, this is the price action I'm really talking about. You can see it really well here. It's before we give up the results. You know, I like using these line charts the best. The candlesticks, I don't trade the candlesticks well. I let it kind of affect me. So I trade the line chart. And then here, I remember I watched this breakout, and this was a absolute wall up here. Um, it was just, madness. You're talking about 250,000 shares traded right here. Um, and whoever was propping this earlier was clearly selling in here on these pops, really, really heavy. So they were making a bunch of money. But this choppiness, right? This volatility, this will shake people out, shake people out. And you notice whoever was playing with this, whoever was, the one running the show on this thing, they were slowly tightening, tightening, tightening until, ultimately this volatility is a lot less than all this. So, um, basically this breakdown that we see here, I was kind of watching it. I really wanted to play it, but the shares were really expensive to locate, and I wasn't sure if this was just getting wound tight to break out or break down, so I kind of just let it go. Um, and I missed this. This was a beautiful trade. But um, yeah, so that kind of stirred the pot on day one, and now let's go to day two. Day two was pretty boring. Nothing really happened, but we'll go over it real quick because day three was kind of set up by day two. Um, All right, so this is day two. All right, so this was actually pretty interesting. I actually did trade this. Um, yeah, so this was interesting. It the stock opened down, right? Triggered the SSR down here. This would have been like a good SSR long, uh, but I don't want to get too ahead of the picture. So this day I was shorting, right? I shorted on this pop. I shorted on this pop, and then I started boxing my position because something did not feel right. So I was short. I am short in my other broker, um, and then I boxed the trade using this broker. I like trading off this broker a lot better because they have really good fundamental research tools, but the other broker has all the shares to locate. So I usually just will box in this one if I plan on holding overnight and stuff. So anyways, this, right, I ended up boxing this because something felt weird. I was like, I don't know. So I boxed some more here. So this was kind of a trim to my short. And then this was a box. And then I sold some here. I was thinking maybe it was going to go down. But anyways, this morning, this was kind of a day where nothing happened. It sat and it played right in this range, right? Didn't really do anything else other than play in this range. So I took that into consideration. And then today, right? So I was short. This chart. All right. Well, the chart stopped working. Right. And now today, right? So today I'm trading this. So I woke up, I got a bunch of shares from my other broker because today's the day that this thing was gonna go down. They had that webinar. They scheduled a webinar for 1 p.m. So I was sitting tight, waiting, waiting, waiting. Um, and this is how I traded it. So I was short. Um, Overnight. I had a little bit of a box position. Then the market opened, and I was like, oh, this thing, it was a really weird open, like no volume for, I mean, you got no volume here for 30 minutes. And then I was like, something feels fishy. They got the webinar at 1. I was like, this thing feels like it just feels like it wants to squeeze. There's no activity. And then I started going long here, and then then out of nowhere, like this pop happened. I started selling, 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 and then by this time I was completely out of my box. Um, I got all the profits from my long. I got all the profits from the box position. I was down kind of big in my other account, but I only had I had a full position maybe, but on a trade like this, I'd go up to maybe 3 times, 3.5 times full position because it's such a great opportunity. And then on my other account, I was shorting up here like pretty heavy. My average ended up being like 7. So I was really laying it in here. And this was right before the meeting. You can tell I saw it clear as day is this whoever was holding this thing up long, whoever was squeezing this a little bit, they got trapped, right? On level 2 you could see when they're propping the bid, you have to realize like they're accumulating shares. When they stuff it hard and there's a big volume spike and the stock goes nowhere, that means they're rotating out, right? They're playing the spreads. And as soon as this rejected heavy here, you could see because the SSR was on that, another player, big player, came into the game, and whoever was, playing the long side of this got trapped. Like they were done for. And then, the call started and this guy was done. It was like playing poker, and whoever was playing poker is, thinking they're gonna win, they're gonna win, and then, they're chasing something that they don't have, and then next thing you know, a second player pushes them all in, and now they have to play their own bluff, and that's kind of what happened here. Next thing you know, the short seller was right on top of the bid every single time, so the SSR gets triggered. You can only short on a ask getting filled. You can't just slam the bid, slam the bid, slam the bid anymore. So this guy, every time someone was hold on, my computer's gonna turn off. This program shuts off at a specific time. All right, so back to the trade. So, yeah, so you can't just slam the bid when the SSR is on. So, if you're watching level 2, you see this reject hard. You see this big player come in and they put a big bid up, I mean a big ask up, and every time someone hits the sell or, hits the bid with a sell order, someone that's actually already long the stock, the short seller's ask would drop to that point. So then whoever was long up here had to start walking out of their position. They got trapped, right? Because the guy shorting had a bigger bankroll than the guy playing the long side, and this thing just kept getting walked down, walked down, walked down, walked down. I mean, the short seller probably walked this thing down all the way to 640. I was watching it, I was short, and I was in heaven, right? It was beautiful. It was, the guy got caught long. Next thing you know, we have this whole big melt all the way. Then by the time the thing was over, I was saying in the chat that this thing is definitely going to go red. The presentation was iffy, you know, but yeah, it was a sweet trade. This ends up going, it's at 550 now. So I was still short because I was playing this, right? I was doing all my research on Monday, kind of got in there, saw that the company needed cash, kind of went into the results a little bit of the news, didn't really find it to be overly important. This company still has a lot of things on its checklist to get done. So, um, so one of the reasons why this was able to get, walked up and squeezed a bit, kind of in a reasonable fashion, is because they had no offering in effect. But now I was reading this just came out after hours today. So the shelf got amended. I haven't read the whole thing yet, so I'm gonna probably just do that right after I make the video and head to bed. But it kind of lays it out in here. In my fundamental analysis, I kind of went into depth a little bit in the chat room how much cash they have. Um, but yeah, these things lay out the whole business for you guys. So if you don't read these already, I would definitely hop on it. It gives so much information. You can learn so much about the business. Lays out the entire history of the business. So these guys want to raise 75 million. They're not going to be able to do that. They're only going to be able to raise like mm, a, a third of 24 maybe. But I don't. They're not going to be able to. They'll probably have a little bit of a tough time raising the capital that they need. I mean, they have enough. They have 7 million. I don't know where it says it, but so this is the history of the business. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. All right, so here's the 7 million that they have. And then if you put in the burn rate, right? These guys are down to like I had it at 4 something. Uh, so they need cash, right? It costs a lot of money to get these drugs approved by the FDA. They got to get more patients for their studies. They need the cash. They're gonna need the money pretty bad. Then I highlighted that. let's see what else. Let's see. Okay, so if you see here, it says recently we implemented cost-cutting measures, including a reduction in the size of our workforce in order to conserve cash resources. So that's really important, you know. These guys are, like I said, down on cash based on the available cash. They do not have sufficient cash on hand to support current operations for at least the next 12 months. Blah, 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 blah. Therefore, there's substantial doubt that the company, other than the cash on hand, the proceeds supplying the product to clinical trials, other than our cash on hand and the funds expected to be received from our supplying product for clinical trials. Okay, so yeah, they're underfunded. We seek to raise additional funds, blah 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 blah. So this is the collaboration. Like they had that one with Janssen, but now they're looking for someone, you know, they don't have anything really going for them. They're kind of just a company with a drug and, you know, they have to pay to, you know, get these trials and collect the data on their own, which is pretty tough. Oh wow, this is pretty interesting. It says, given our capital constraints, we need to prioritize spending on our clinical and preclinical programs. If we're unable to raise sufficient funds to support our current implant operations, we may elect to discontinue certain ongoing activities or programs. Our inability to raise funds could also prevent us from taking advantage of opportunities to pursue promising new existing programs in the future. Um, so that doesn't sound very good, right? Okay, we know about that. All right, we know we have net losses, foreseeable future. I wonder if they have a timeline on this CAP one, like an updated one. Yeah, see, so both of the company's drugs are in early stage of development, requires extensive clinical testing before approved by the FDA, blah blah blah. Yeah, so basically they have a long time frame that they can play with, or they have a short amount of time, but they need long-term money. So it's gonna it's gonna be tough for them. Well, I don't think they need to be worrying about the growth too much. What else? What else? What else? You know, this is probably, you know, there's a good chance that this ends pretty bad here over the next couple days. This It seems like they're going to have a tough time raising capital with all the factors that are at play. You know, if you're running a business or a fund or something, you know, you're probably not going to be allocating that much money to this risky drug that's expensive. Um, you know, these guys are trying to stay alive here and they're not going to be able to raise the funds that they need on great terms because you know they don't really have any leverage. What else, what else, what else? I mean, that's really the gist of it. They don't have any leverage. They don't really have much that they can do. I don't know how much someone would be willing to pay for the drug alone. um, you know, I don't think it's necessarily like, yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. So that's kind of about it. Tomorrow, so these guys are going to be they are looking to raise cash. Uh, we don't know what the deal's going to be, but I would expect an offering uh to be priced, you know, pretty soon. You're talking about a company that went from 3 to 550, up 70% in a short period of time. Ugh, they're probably gonna use that. Um, Man, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what to think as to where it's gonna go. If I had a bet, it's definitely going under 5. I mean, they're probably gonna raise as much as they can. I don't think this will be a 5-day play. Sometimes what happens here is shorts can get squeezed again, you know, day 4. And then on day 5 it usually offers a better retry, but this looks like it's getting walked down. It looks like there's a sense of urgency to get a deal done to keep these guys alive. Uh, but yep, so that's kind of it. Um, I would say maybe I'll be looking for 4s over the next couple days. The borrow's a little bit expensive, but I should make a little bit more money on the short side than, what I'll have to pay in the locates. So, yeah, that's just a couple things to look out for is that volatility that can chop you up short term. If you're trading these with a short term time horizon, you got to be careful, right? And this trend line you see here, let me get rid of the fibs. Oh no, I just hit the wrong button. Oof, good thing the broker has that. So this line here, that this is just a long-term um trend line, Usually that's how these things play. They pop to the long-term trend lines and then they just get slammed down, and that's kind of what we saw happen here. So that's kind of how I traded it. I really was patient, waited for that long-term trend line to come near, and then I started scaling in. Well, I guess scaling out, then scaling in. Um, and yeah, so definitely keep an eye on the volatility. If you feel yourself getting whiplashed around, usually exiting, kind of taking a step back, giving yourself a little bit better of a view. Because sometimes it's hard to think when you are in a position, right? I know I boxed, I felt like I was going to get whiplashed here, so I ended up just boxing the position, and then, from there you can think so much clearer. So try to use that, and just keep working on fundamental research. There's so much information out there, and as much as the charts give you an idea as to what's going on, the fundamentals of the business will dictate where the stock price goes, right? I always say there's a reason why Apple trades at, $200 a share, and there's a reason why CAPR trades at $5 a share. Um, and market cap is obviously what matters, but uh, you know, that's just the general idea is, good companies can appreciate, they can collect equity, they can collect value, they build value, they can create value for shareholders. These smaller companies, they need funding. Okay, so they're both using the capital markets, but one is in a way different situation than, say the other. So that's about it on the CAPR trade. Still got a couple days to go, but yeah, just want to throw out some stuff. If you like these videos, subscribe. If you want more, let me know, and I can make some more of these. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a good one.